February 2000. A woman named Jill Price sat down one evening and began writing a letter. She wasn't trying to publish a book, and she wasn't writing to tell someone about her life. The letter was addressed to a memory researcher at the University of California because she had been living with something she couldn't explain. For as long as she could remember, every day of her life stayed with her. Not just birthdays or holidays, ordinary Tuesdays, random afternoons, conversations most people would have forgotten years ago. If someone gave her a date, she could often tell you what day of the week it was, what had happened, what was on the news, and what she had been doing. It wasn't something she practiced. The memories simply came back on their own. When she was younger, Jill assumed everyone experienced life this way. But as she got older, she realized they didn't. Friends would laugh because they couldn't remember something that had happened years earlier. Jill couldn't understand how that was possible. For her, the memories never really disappeared. They just stayed there, waiting for the smallest reminder to bring them back. Eventually, it became frustrating enough that she wrote that letter. She wanted to know if there was a name for what was happening to her, or if she was the only person in the world like this. The letter eventually reached memory researcher James McGaugh. He had spent years studying memory and had heard plenty of extraordinary claims before. Most of them fell apart once they were tested, so instead of accepting Jill's story, he decided to find out for himself. His team began asking her about random dates from years earlier. What day of the week was it? What happened that day? What was making headlines? Jill answered one question after another. Then the researchers checked her answers against calendars, newspaper archives, and historical records. They expected to catch mistakes. Instead, her answers kept matching the records. The tests were repeated again and again with different dates, each one designed to find the point where her memory would finally fail. It rarely did. What Jill had wasn't the kind of memory people use to memorize long lists of numbers or win memory competitions. In fact, she wasn't especially good at those. Her memory worked in a completely different way. It was tied to her own life. Almost every day she had ever lived could come back with remarkable detail, as though her brain had decided that nothing was ever worth throwing away. Researchers eventually gave the condition a name: Highly Superior Autobiographical Memory, or HSAM. At the time, Jill became the first person scientists had ever formally documented with it. Since then, only a small number of people around the world have been identified with the same ability. It sounds incredible. Most of us have forgotten thousands of ordinary days without even realizing it. Imagine remembering where you parked your car 15 years ago, what shirt you wore on a rainy Thursday, or the exact conversation that ruined your mood on a random afternoon in high school. To many people, that sounds like a superpower, but Jill didn't see it that way. She once explained that remembering everything also meant reliving everything. The happy memories came back just as clearly, but so did the painful ones. Embarrassing moments, arguments, loss, regret. Things most people slowly move on from could suddenly feel fresh all over again. Her memory didn't let the past stay in the past. It kept bringing it back. Scientists are still trying to understand why a small number of people develop this kind of memory, while almost everyone else forgets so much over time. Even today, there isn't a complete answer. Jill's story changed the way researchers think about memory. Before her, scientists understood a great deal about why people forget. After studying Jill, they were reminded that the human brain can sometimes work in ways no one expects. For most of us, forgetting is simply part of life. For Jill Price, every yesterday is still there.